I know I also posted something in the Dallas Dancers Network towards the end of last month regarding doing like a book club in a way. So I wanted to read the Misty Copeland autobiography book, and then also up on the table would be Lorianne Gibson. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, and then maybe we could have that like a discussion center at the Salmons. I don't know if y'all are still allowing people to come and do events at the moment due to COVID.
We're not for now. We're pretty restricted on our guidelines. At this point, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens as more people get vaccinated and where the numbers are going. And right now they appear to be trending in the right direction, but we also, with the mask mandate ending and
Today.
everything opening up, we're a little
Yeah.
concerned about what might happen as a result of that, plus with spring break. So we're going to proceed with caution at this point because our main priority right now is to make sure everybody is safe that's in the building. So right now we aren't allowing any public events.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, happy to consider it though when things improve.
Well, and even if it's just virtual, I just wanted to see. It's like a good idea, right? So then, if you have email lists to like spread the word about it. My question is, should I do Misty Copeland first, or should I do Lorianne Gibson?
I don't know. Why don't you email me offline and we can figure out how best to approach that.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a very long agenda today, and I want to make sure I don't keep everybody through their dinner today. But so let me give a very quick organizational update. We are scheduling another brown bag roundtable, and the roundtables are open to anybody that wants to attend, whereas our regular DACAC presentations are for members only. So this one is available or will be available to anybody that wants to attend. I've had a lot of questions lately about virtual fundraising, and just a lot. Some of it is related to resources around that, who's used what's working, but also how successful is that approach for groups that are considering it. So we will have that on March 25th at noon, and we have several of our colleagues presenting. Charles Santos will be with us from Titus. He had a lot of success early on with a virtual gala. Also, Rosaura Cruz or some of her folks from Junior Players have been using it. And also the Dallas Theater Center will be having one of their folks with us. So we'll be getting some information out on that, but it's at noon on the 25th of March. I want to welcome Zach Hess, who's a new member. He's a new member of the Cultural Affairs Commission. So thank you, Zach, for joining us today. We're very happy to have you and happy to have you on the commission.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I also wanted, before we get started and jump into everything, I wanted to also let you all know that our colleague Zanetta Drew has received another well-deserved honor, and that is the Ernie Award from I think Dance America is the group, but any of you that want to send her congratulations, please feel free to do that. But I just want to make sure you were all aware of that. So, and then we will have a meeting at the end of this month. Normally, when we have a meeting mid-month, we don't have the one at the end of the month, but because we're in an election season, we will go ahead and have our regular meeting on March 31st. So that will be at 4 p.m. That's Wednesday, March 31st. So we're going to have a new presentation today that we're going to start adding into our DACAC meetings. So we're calling it the Member Spotlight and New Member Welcome. And I am going to ask Tino to jump in and start our new member our member spotlight. So I'm going to turn over to Tino.
Great, thank you, Joanna. And just for you, I'm going to put video on. Because we've been online, we thought, we're missing the camaraderie And we really do want to keep pushing for new members. So I would invite you all to ask somebody to join. You can join at a $35 individual member level, or if you want an organization to join, it's $75 at a minimum. So we have 2 members. You may know them already, but we would like for them to take a few moments to just introduce themselves. And we'll go alphabetically. First with Audrey Austin, and then if we could have Nancy Cohen Israel go ahead and take the floor. So Audrey, if you could introduce yourself to the group, that'd be great.
Audrey, we can't hear you.
You're not on mute, so it might be a microphone issue.
Can't hear you, Audrey. Okay, just like the Golden Globes, we're gonna go on to Nancy Cohen Israel, and then we'll jump back to you, Audrey, okay? Nancy, if you could take a moment to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Great. Can you hear me for starters?
Yes.
Excellent. Great. Well, hello, everybody. It's so good to see all of you. I do know many of you. And I am Nancy Cohen Israel. I'm an art historian, the founder of Art a la carte, which is an art educational organization. Although I do a lot of other things in the meantime. I write for Patron Magazine, primarily about the visual arts. I've been writing with them since we launched in 2011. And I'm now part of the education team at the Meadows Museum as well, which is a huge, wonderful honor and position to be holding. Also, just sort of on the side, I'm a closet ballerina, and I'm just so grateful to Laura Speckles for offering online classes during this crazy time, try to keep my body in somewhat shape. And I just have to say, I've been wanting to be a part of DACAC for a really long time, and Zoom has made it possible for me to come to these meetings. So I want to thank you all, and looking forward to being involved in this important and wonderful organization.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you. Thank you. Audrey, can we check back in with you and see if you've got sound?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I switched devices. And so my name is Audrey Austin. I am the president of No Limits Arts Theater. I was invited to become a part of the DACAC by Tino. And I have a passion for art, and especially for young artists. And my nonprofit goal is to provide a space for them to flourish and express themselves, as well as helping teachers, veterans, and the community. So I am excited to be here and be a part of the organization, and to learn all that DACAC is doing in the art community and contribute where I can. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you, Audrey. And you have a huge event coming up too, right?
Oh, I do. I'm sorry. Yes. So at the end of this month, we have our annual event called Art is Performance. It's just for the performance artists, whatever their performance expression is. Well, this year is going to be mostly vocalists and poets performing for us. And then we have a golf tournament that's going to be coming up in June, on June the 4th. So the Art is Performance is March the 27th. And we are in between 2 different locations. We have not made a choice on which yet we're going to be at, but we will have that information coming soon. We would love for everyone to come out and support who doesn't mind getting out. We only can have 30 people because of the mandates from the COVID-19 restrictions, but we are excited to do it. And my young artists are excited to actually do live. We were looking to do a virtual event, but when the restrictions were lifted, they were all like, can we please just do it in person? And so I was like, absolutely. So that's what we're going to be doing on March 27th.
Nice, congratulations. And we know Audrey, Suzanne Smith, David Fisher, Rhiannon Martin, Christina Hart. We all served on the Cultural Innovation Committee for 24 Hour Dallas, and that's how we met Audrey, who also served with us too. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Audrey, for taking a moment. And if you all are interested in participating in the next one, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick you Thanks.
Joanna, you're muted.
Welcome, Audrey, and welcome, Nancy. We're so glad to have you with us. So moving on, we have a brief presentation from Erica Felicella on the Aurora Artist Grants. So take it away, Erica.
Hi, everybody. I just barely made it here on time. Sorry, technical issues such as the world right now. Yeah, I just wanted to give a little brief update. We started an Artist Relief Fund in 2020 as a response to what individual artists are going through. Our previous grant was for any creative, both visual and performing. But this particular round, we're offering 5 grants. They're all $4,000 each. They're hardship grants, so they are not, they're unrestricted funds. So the artists can spend it however they need it. This particular round is for BIPOC identifying visual artists, only this round, no performing arts. And the deadline is March 15th. We're trying to get the word out there as deep as we can. They have until 11:59, which I feel like all of our grants are going to come in between 11:30 and 11:59, as they usually do. There's a few differences. This one, like I said, visual artists only, have to show a sustained practice in your field. We're really looking for artists that have been at it for a while, have a good showing history of sorts, basically no major gaps for a couple of years at least. We still want to try to get some of the maybe MFA students in there that maybe started showing or exhibiting, back when they were working on their bachelor's, but also, it's try to cover as wide a range as possible. We've narrowed our county field for this grant. It was all of North Texas. Last time we ended up getting 120 applicants in 2 weeks. So we decided to focus that in a little bit. Now you have Dallas, Denton, Tarrant, Collin, Rockwall counties are included in this grant. We're also working with an outside jury panel this time. We have Sara Canona, Viola Delgado, Christian Vasquez, Riley Holloway, and I'm forgetting one, which is shameful. Oh, Liliana Block. So they range from practicing artists to arts professionals in our field and in our industry. They're also we tried to kind of spread out across the Metroplex a little bit as well. And it's free and open to apply. It's not pay to play. It's nothing like that. It's just basically just for financial hardship for the pandemic. So we gave away 2 of these grants last August. Like I said, we're giving away 5 this time. This is in thanks to PNC Foundation, which was incredibly generous, and they supported all the funding needed for this grant opportunity. They're also really focused on, as a whole organization, on working towards ending systemic racism, which is why they wanted to go in this specific direction with the grant. And they're also developing a one-on-one peer and wellness program with the grant recipients. It's basically entrepreneurship training on fire. So we look forward to working with them to help them develop that curriculum, and hopefully, maybe opening it up to a broader range outside the grant recipients in the future. I just wanted to let you guys know that this fund isn't like a one and done, just like we did it in the summer. We're doing this round. As long as we continue to be able to raise money for it, we will continue to be able to give out grants. So we do, this is private hush hush, keeping DACAC information, but we will have a round 3 coming down the pipeline in the future as well. So that was kind of a quick overall, incredibly going fast, stay on Joanna's agenda timeline. And if any of you have any questions, you're more than, just reach out to me directly. It's erica@dallasaurora.com. You can find the grant application on Aurora's website, which is dallasaurora.com. It's a super easy, it's a Google form. So we tried to make it as non-intimidating as possible for all of us that fill out grants. Like this should take you, the longest it'll take is to write your statement of need. Everything else you should pretty much already have. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Erica, and thank you and everyone at Aurora for doing this. I know there's a lot of artists out there that need help right now, so thanks a lot. And moving on, Hector Garcia is going to fill us in on the elevator project, and so I'm going to turn it over to Hector.
Thanks, Joanna. I appreciate being here. Thanks to all at DACAC. I'm Hector Garcia, and I'm with the AT&T Performing Arts Center, and I'm here to talk about Elevator Project. Now, Elevator Project may be familiar to you, but even if you are familiar with it, I want you to think about it sort of in new ways, sort of challenging you to see if there's a germ of an idea that you've had knocking around your brain for a while. This may be the perfect opportunity to give it some legs, bring it to life. It could be a performance, a collaboration. It could even be something that's in workshop stage and might later come to life as a production. It could be a tribute to a musical artist or a choreographer. It could be original music, original choreography, or a new play. We've had all those. We've had all of these things, and we've featured much more in Elevator Project. The firepower that the AT&T Performing Arts Center can bring to your unrealized vision is really tremendous, and we'd love to help you. And you would benefit not just from doing the production, but also from the mentoring that our staff can provide in getting ready for the production. And then we try to continue that relationship afterwards, even years later. We continue working with some of our groups. Normally, Elevator Project will utilize the center's smaller spaces like Hammond Hall or the 6th floor studio theater in the Wiley. But we do challenge you to think about additional interesting spaces around the center. And we've had some things turned in for very unusual spaces, parking lots and esplanades and the donor pool. So we're open to all those ideas. We normally do focus on artists and organizations that do not have a venue in which they normally perform, but we can make an exception if there's a real reason to do so. Applications are all online. They're reviewed by 2 levels of professionals, and people who really do know the city's artistic community. We do try to put together a curated season of 8 programs that does represent the city's wide diversities, its many communities, underrepresented communities that have been historically marginalized. So think about those things in light of some ideas you may have. Our first season of Elevator Project was the 2014-2015 season, and we're now collecting applications for the 21-22 season. So we've been doing this for a while, and we love it. The entire staff at the center loves Elevator Project. Applications are now open at the center, but they close at noon this Friday. And just like Erica's applications, I'm going to see a lot of activity in the last several hours because people are holding on to starting their applications. So if you're interested in this, go to our center's website. That's attpac.org, AT&T Performing Arts Center, attpac.org. Go to the About section, and then you'll see an area for Elevator Project. And there are really 2 pages, an informational page, which is important to read because there are restrictions. You have to live in the city of Dallas, etc. Now, you don't have to be an organization. You could be an individual artist. If you are an organization, you don't have to be a 501c3 organization. So read the information, read the restrictions, and there is an apply button there that will get you to the application. Really, if you have any questions, we have a dedicated email address for this, and that's elevatorproject@pac.org, elevatorproject@attpac.org. I'm happy to help people anytime, and I will take questions later, or you can email them to me, or we can even chat on the phone. But get your idea in. We'd love to have it. Thank you.
Thanks, Hector. And I know you'll get a lot of really great applications, as you always do. So we always look forward to seeing who's in the elevator project this year. So
Thanks, Joanna.
moving on, Devon Miller is with us, and he has an exciting announcement about a new initiative at Fair Park for Juneteenth. So I'm going to turn it over to Devon.
Thanks, Joanna. So yes, I'm Devon with Dallas Summer Musicals. So we were approached by Elite News and the Blair Foundation. Elite News is a Black-owned newspaper based in South Dallas, and they are planning a Juneteenth celebration, march, and festival for Saturday, June 19th of this year to happen inside of Fair Park. Expecting roughly 20,000 individuals is what they're saying right now, and it's a tri-state effort between Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Sorry, I had to look at that. So with North Texas being the center hub for the celebration in March. So from 10 to 12, there'll be a march that will start at Blair Park, I believe, and go come all the way to Fair Park. And then from 1 to 8, there'll be community events. And then from 8 to 11, there'll be headlining entertainment. They're actively looking for partners right now to provide community entertainment on their main stage. So the DSM has come in as a marketing and entertainment partner. So we'll be working with our students to provide some Broadway entertainment on their main stage in that 1 to 8 timeframe. But they're really interested in ensuring that local arts groups of all types and sizes are represented during this event. They're very much focused on liberation of all people, although Juneteenth is very much about liberation of Black individuals. The feeling that they're going for is liberation from a year of hell, basically. So they have a folkloric group lined up right now. They have, of course, DSM lined up. They have vendor booth options that you can do. I think Tino dropped a link in there, so more information there. But they're really looking to activate as many cultural organizations as possible during that event and during that march and parade. So feel free to reach out directly to them if you have any questions. I'm just a kind of middleman to help support their efforts. But their website has their contact information and how to register and what you need to know.
Devon, thanks so much. That's very exciting. I know as we get closer to June, there's going to be a lot of pent up demand for activities and getting out to see live artists and performances. So that is a great idea. Moving on, we're going to move on to the Dallas City Council elections coming up and talk about our election strategy. There are 57 candidates running. Every one of the council members has drawn opponents, and then there are 3 that are term limited. They are Jennifer Gates, Lee Kleinman, and Adam Medrano. So of course, whenever an incumbent leaves a council seat, there's usually a flurry of candidates that try for that seat. So it's going to be another interesting election. It's not quite as many as we had in the last one. But the mayor is not up for re-election, so that may be why we don't have quite as many. We will be getting a list of those candidates up on the website very soon, and we are starting a round of meetings with all of the candidates, hoping to make sure they're aware of how important the arts are to the city and to the economy of the city and the quality of life of the city. So what you see in front of you right now is a breakout of the agenda that we're talking to them about. And I'm going to let Chris Heinbaugh walk through that since he was the primary person pulling the agenda together. So Chris, if you wouldn't mind kind of walking people through our priorities, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Joanna. And of course, I shut it and I can't see it because my eyes aren't that good. So let me open a big version here of this. But basically with the agendas, what we do is we really try to look at the arts community as a whole and, not individual kind of wants or needs of different districts. And so, and we get a lot of input from our steering committee, from you all over the course of the last few months, and spent a lot of time with commissioners and Office of Arts and Culture to really kind of understand, what are the needs, what are the realities in terms of budget cuts, especially this year, what are we facing, and then trying to craft that agenda to kind of deal with the budget needs, but also long-term needs. And one of the first ones that we've got, of course, is we want the candidates to recognize that arts and culture are going to be a vital part of our city's economic recovery, and that they need to focus on that. And that is, in particular, a really important piece of this, because it just, it supports everything going forward. And part of what we do with the candidates is walk them through all of these, but also make sure they have an overview of what the budget is, what the Office of Arts and Culture does, the organizations that it supports, but also the artists that it supports, and some of the, in terms of the cultural plan, the equity goals, and the support of Alana and BIPOC artists and those programs. So we try to walk them through all of that and then go through these pieces. So again, the first one though is the arts and culture as part of the economic recovery. The second one is to continue support for the Office of Arts and Culture through both the general fund and the hotel occupancy tax. I think a lot of you know we had a very, very successful campaign, and this really goes back to what we can do when we work together as a unit for the greater whole. And getting that hotel occupancy tax was absolutely incredible. We didn't even have any of the hotel occupancy tax a few years ago. And then we got a little sliver, and now we are on track to get 12% of that, and then 15% of that in the next Visit Dallas contract. And that's huge, but we're not trying to take from one fund, the general fund, and move it over to the hotel occupancy tax. And this is something we have to reinforce with council members continually, because they think, oh, well, you've got all this new money. It's like, no, Dallas has a very unique arts model in terms of, we own a lot of venues. We are growing rapidly, and, part of the cultural plan was we want to achieve kind of, better equity in terms of equitable resources being spread around. And, our choice was, do we all fight over the same piece of pie, or do we grow the pie bigger? And the hotel occupancy tax is how we are growing the pie bigger so that everybody gets a piece of that. So we have to remind them all the time about that. And then the next one, if you scroll down a little more, all right. Include significant, this is for the bond program coming up. We really want to start planting in their heads that the arts have to be in the next bond program. Because right now, all they're talking about is streets. That's all they're talking about right now. So we have to get on their radar very early and start talking about bond programs and making sure arts are in the bond program. Because as you all know, our buildings are falling apart because the city isn't able to spend enough out of the general fund to pay for that. So we need to make sure that that's part of it. Then we also want them to advocate for the arts. We want them to be our champion. And that means with constituents, and that means with businesses, but that also means with city staff. City staff has a whole bunch of priorities, from police to streets to all these different things. But if they're continually hearing from council members that the arts are important, it starts making a difference, okay? And with their colleagues, all right? And that's very important. And then also encouraging city departments to utilize the arts in creating solutions to problems. And that could be a wide range. It could be getting more artists to do more murals out in the neighborhoods. It could be a wide range of things. Can you help battle blight doing that? Can you help with affordable housing? Maybe when you're doing affordable housing projects that neighborhoods don't seem to like, what if you include artists as part of that, a carve out for artists? All right, all of a sudden those neighborhoods who are resistant to that, maybe, gee, that might be actually something I would accept. Maybe we can work in some workshops or gallery space or something like that. So we want them to start thinking of arts beyond just, a museum or a theater somewhere. And then also we want to make sure that arts and culture are part of the city's legislative agenda. And that means when they go down to Austin, when they're working to protect and secure Texas Commission for the Arts funding, and the cultural grant funding there, or if they're going to Washington and doing it on that level, all right? And with the NEA, that they are talking to their Congress people and making sure they know Dallas has a lot invested in the arts and we need that support. So again, it's just kind of keeping it top of mind. And those are kind of the agendas. You can dig in a little bit more there. I think Tino sent that around and you can look at that a bit more. And I would welcome all of you to please connect with us. You can send Joanna or Tino or Hannah a message on this, but we need to know, you know, where you and your organizations are in terms of districts. If you live in the city, what district do you live in? We're meeting with all of these candidates right now and building our relationships with them. And it always carries more weight if we've got somebody who lives in that district, or if your organization is in that district, or even if your organization serves communities in that district. If you have a program that's hitting a school that just, you know, in an area of town that never seems to get any, you know, resources, cultural resources, then let us know that, because all of a sudden that gets that candidate's attention. You know, oh my gosh, Spruce High is in my district, and they do programs out there at Spruce High. That's really good, you know. So just kind of think that through and let us know, because we're lining up and doing these interviews, and they're like back to back. We're doing them now because we've learned if you get in really early, you plant the seed early, because everybody's jumping on them later in the race. So we're in there early and we're doing that now. So please let us know if you're willing to join these calls, and then try to give us an idea of where you live or where your programs are being utilized, so that we can have the greatest impact with them. But, and let me know if you got any questions, Joanna.
And what you see up on the screen right now is, you know, kind of the leave behind piece. If we were doing in-person interviews, but we're sending this out ahead of the meeting so they understand kind of the value proposition of the arts. They understand the priorities of the cultural plan. They understand how the arts work within our city, all the areas that we touch. And then on the second page, you know, we have, you know, the impact of what COVID has done to the arts, and then also our priorities, just a real short summary of the agenda, so that they have it all right there in a very brief, concise document. So we will have this document as well as the strategy document available up on the website. So if you have occasion to speak to a candidate, you have all the information that you need. We're also sending a survey out to all candidates with 6 questions. And we want, you know, we do this every election, but we would like to know from them how they will prioritize the arts, what their involvement at the arts has been. And we essentially are giving them the answers for the survey by providing them with this document. That survey will be available through a SurveyMonkey, but also as a Word document that we can send out and make available on our website. And then we post these surveys on the website so that you can see for yourselves how the candidates are responding and who's responding. And this goes back to our Arts Dallas Voter Initiative, our Arts Vote Dallas initiative. So we're really just building on the momentum that we had from the last municipal election. And so, excuse me. So I just want to encourage everybody to make sure, A, that you're registered to vote if you haven't already, that you do get out to vote. As Tino reminded in the chat, the election day is May 1st. Early voting is going to start on April 19th and end on April 27th. And Thursday, April 1st is the last day to register. And we have a great opportunity here to leverage the momentum from the November election, where a lot more people got registered. We just need them to turn out. And the turnout for municipal elections is just abysmal. The last one 2 years ago, 7% of eligible voters turned out for the municipal election. Now that was up from 6% from the previous one, but that's just terrible. And it indicates that there's kind of a disconnect between the public and and our city officials. So anything you can do to encourage your friends, family, colleagues, board members, patrons to go ahead and and get registered and get out there and vote is important. And then you can point them to the information on the surveys so that they know how the candidates and where the candidates stand on arts and support
Yep.
for the arts.
We're going to be, there are some people who are trying to set up some art receptions, fundraisers for some of these candidates. So look for those and show up, and feel free to ask questions and things like that. Those are things some individuals are doing, but we'll try to make you aware of them. The other thing, when you're letting us know if you want to participate, the other thing that's really, really important, and it's called arts dogging. And what we do is, and it's easier to do now because we're virtual, but we're finding out about all these candidate forums, okay, and candidate debates. So what we want to do is, if that's your district, we want you to pop in there and ask arts questions, because the more they start hearing arts questions and they're going, wow, this is actually something out in the community, not just a couple of, arts organizations, but get your board members, get people who live in those districts, especially living in those districts, because the votes are what matter, but get them to, call in, register, and be in those forums. And we're going to put together, Tino and Joanna will figure out how to put together a listing of those and try to remind you to drop in on those, because those are really, really, really important. And because they're virtual now, they're really easy to do. You don't have to, you can have a little glass of wine and just sit back and enjoy it. So we really appreciate your help. And believe me, this investment that we're making now, it's a lot of work right now, but this will pay off for us. If you noticed in the last budget session, we really barely got hit in terms of support for arts organizations. OAC got hit, but in terms of support for arts organizations, for the most part, we were flat year over year. And that's amazing. There are other cities. San Antonio temporarily closed their Office of Arts and Culture. Philadelphia dumped it entirely. We've been able to keep our funding flat. And that's because of the relationships that we all together built with our council. So please participate. We'd love to have you. The more, the better.
Also, Chris, if I could add, in the research that I've been doing on the candidates, I have not seen anybody put arts and culture as one of their priorities. And so if you find somebody who has it listed, please share it with us so that we can give them a little shout out. That would be great to see.
We also have a more current list, I think, of candidates than the one that's up there.
This is an older list, so I'm sorry about that. I just sent over the wrong list earlier. So we do have the complete list now, and there are quite a few more candidates than what you see there on that list. But
it's like 57, 59.
57 candidates, yes. And there are a couple of districts where they've got like Adam Basil Dua's district has, I think, 7 or 8 candidates. So there are a lot of people running. And there's always a few people who throw their hat in the ring and then they barely show up. But there will be undoubtedly a lot of runoffs in this election. And so we'll have to be prepared to deal with that when the time comes, and another round of meetings. But I just want to echo what Chris said, that our success in the last few years, it's been because of all of you. It's been because we've worked together. It's because we paid attention. It's because we showed up. And we've been able to really maintain and or restore funding to the Office of Cultural Affairs. And I'm sure you all remember how OAC was the first one to get cut and the last one to be restored during the Great Recession, or after the Great Recession. So any questions or comments on the election strategy?
Joanna, I just want to say that this is Hector, I just put the final ballot order PDF in the chat for anybody who wants it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll try to get that up on the website as well. So anybody else have a comment or a question? Okay, well, I'm going to move on to another topic. As you all know, the House today passed the stimulus bill. So it is going to Biden's desk to be signed into law. So that's great news for everybody, individually in terms of the stimulus checks that individuals will get, but more importantly, that some of the programs that we were all very interested in seeing funded have been included. So one of those is the SVOG, or the Shuttered Venue program, and that one has been really slow rolling out, and the SBA has been very, very slow rolling that out. What you see up on your screen is the list of documents that are going to be required for any organization that's going to apply for that. Now, this particular program is going to apply to groups that have a venue, so a theater or a performing arts center. But there are so many variables about this program that a lot of people won't qualify. And we won't know until probably April 1st what the exact parameters of this program are going to be. But a complicating factor that has occurred is that because the governor ended the mandate for building or for business closures or minimal capacity and mask wearing, that has kind of thrown a wrench into this program. The two criteria to be beyond being a venue or being a presenter, one was that if you were in a state that had a mandate, you could automatically apply for this if you met the other criteria. And then the second criteria, if that wasn't the case, was that you had to suffer a loss of I believe 50% of your earned revenue. I think they're boosting that up to 80% now, or they're that you would show a loss of 20% of earned revenue. And that's another sticky problem because the definition of earned revenue has been debated heavily. And this may change. This program changes every day as the SBA changes their mind and goes back and forth on things. But it is significant money that would be available to organizations that are eligible. And initially they had a rule that if you were getting PPP, you could not apply to for SVOG. Now you can apply for both, but any monies that you've received through PPP would be deducted from SVOG. And so it's a complicated program. The other thing is that if you want to get the maximum benefit out of this, if you're eligible and plan to apply, the best strategy would be to wait till March 31st to apply for PPP, and then because the 24-week period that applies for SVOG is going to start, it's going to end on the date that your PPP loan funds come to you. And so the longer period that you can have in the quarter, the more money that you can get from SVOG. The other concern about SVOG is that there are 2 rounds of funding that will probably exhaust most of the money. There's far less money in this program than there is in the PPP program. So there may not be much left, if any, in that 3rd round for groups that are not going to meet the financial requirement. And it's pretty dire. You have to have lost, I think most of your earned revenue to even apply.
I think it's 80%.
Yeah, 80%. Yeah, 80% of your earned revenue. We did have, and then let's see. If there's
one thing, Joanna, if I could jump in,
Sure.
I would urge you not to wait until the end of the month, because the thing is, you have to have been granted your PPP by the end of the month. So you need to make sure it's got time to work through the system. And I know that there have been some banks who they're not happy because of the SBA, all the confusing guidelines and everything. So given that this law now changes that you can do this and then apply for the SVOG, the Shuttered Venues Grant, when it opens up, I would encourage you to try to get it in to make sure that it gets through the system in time. Last thing you want to do is if you know, especially if it's your first time going for a PPP, you'll want to make sure you give yourself some time. Second time, they go, I think, Charles, you said yours went through pretty quickly.
Ours went through in about 2 weeks and it was funded and in the bank.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't wait till the end of the month, especially if it's your first time. I'd get it in because now there's no penalty for you, at least with this SVOG.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
but
So,
as I said, it
Joanna,
changes. Yeah,
Jeff put in the chat, it's 25% of earned revenue only, no donations or grants for eligibility, and then priorities based on total loss, revenue loss from quarters 1 to 3 year over year. Is that correct? I thought
It was actually 2 through 4 year over year, sorry.
2 through 4.
April 1st through December 31st.
mhm.
But I thought you had to show a revenue loss of greater than 50 to even apply.
It's 25% to apply. And then the eligibility is 90%. And then I thought it was 75%, but it may be 80%. And then you would be in the third. So nonprofits will be in a lower priority group because the priority will include any donations you got in 2020 compared to 2019.
So donations are included in 2020 calculations. And
For priority, not for
priority.
eligibility.
And I guess one other question is, Joanna, is it both PPP rounds that are being considered or just the second?
It's just the second.
Just
I
the
think it's
second.
just the
Yeah.
second, yeah.
Yeah, anything you got prior to December 27th is not relevant to, or not even included in revenue because it was a federal program and not a grant or foundation that gave you the money.
Yeah. The other advantage for the SVOG is that it's a much broader list of things that you can use the money for, including if you've had to make capital repairs or replacements to your facility to make it safer to accommodate COVID restrictions, or you can use it to pay for PPE. It's a broader number of things that are allowed to be funded. As opposed to PPP, which is really just for payroll, health insurance, and rent, and I think also PPE is included in that as well. I also want to encourage everybody that if you're planning on applying for PPE or for PPP, the deadline for that is the 31st of this month. So if you haven't applied, you want to get that done. So,
And just
yes,
keep an eye on the SBA's website because the rules change literally day to day.
every day. And
Every day.
especially that earned revenue versus gross revenue has gone back and forth a couple of times and it's still being hotly debated. So it's, if you're applying for this, you need to watch very closely, and everybody's confused about it. I think the SBA is the most confused about it, the way things look. So
They did add a little more money though into the SVOG, about 1.2 billion. So
mhm.
a little bit more in there, but get your PPP stuff in first.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the ERTC, that's an employee retention tax credit. And it also is fairly complicated. So there's a 2-page presentation that's up on your screen right now. Initially, this also was going to be restricted where you could not apply for the ERC if you had a PPP loan. That has now changed. There's also an opportunity to apply retroactively for 2020. So that is a new change for the earned or the employee retention tax credit. This is a refundable tax credit against your employment taxes. That's the 6.2% that you're paying in payroll taxes that the employer pays on Social Security. And Charles, you did ask a question earlier this week about whether if you apply for this this employee retention tax credit, whether, and you got it, if that would affect your employees' Social Security when they went to retire. And no one's been able to find any substantial information saying that that would not be the case, but the assumption by everyone is that it will not, that this will not affect the amount of Social Security that an employee would be eligible for upon retirement. Everyone that I've talked to from the big accounting firms has said that has definitely not been discussed at any level as they were debating this bill. So the eligibility was employees with 100, or was companies with 100 employees or less. That has been now increased to 500 employees or less for 2021. And then again, this was subject, the eligibility requirement was either that you were in a state that had these restrictions that disrupted your business through, that started in March of 2020. So that's where the retroactive part comes in. But now in Texas, we've got a complicating factor in that our restrictions ended today. And so there are organizations that are not going to be eligible now because of that, because now they'll have to go to the other qualification process, which is based on how much revenue you've lost. You cannot use you can apply for PPP loan as well as this, but you cannot use the same time period of wages that you use for the PPP loan. So again, that's where some of these timing restrictions or timing issues come in for people that are trying to get both. This one you apply for the SVOT, you apply to the SBA. For this one, you apply to the IRS either through your next 990 filing, or you can amend if you're going back to last year through a 941X, and these are available on the IRS website. And so again, this is a complicated program, but maybe worth your while if you have been paying a substantial amount of payroll tax. For 2020, you were restricted to the first 5,000 per employee per quarter of eligible wages. For 2021, that's been raised to 10,000 per quarter. Again, this is the tax that you pay, not the total wages, but you do have to calculate the wages to be able to apply for this. You would have to reflect at least a 20% reduction in your gross receipts, not your earned, but your gross receipts for the company. That's for this year, for 2021, as compared with your same quarter in 2019. So I think that's all the notes I had on that. Does anyone else have any additional information on this employee retention tax credit option? Or does anyone have any questions about any of this? I know it's pretty arcane. Okay, well, good. Well, we will move on. Okay, the next thing is the update on Dallas Arts Advocacy Day, and that is April 20th at noon, from noon to 1:30. That will be an outdoor picnic event in front of the Windspear. It'll be $35. We will have a CAP artist production or performance. I know by then we're all gonna be so starved for seeing a live performance that we will just be glad to have performing artists active again. We have requested Olin Pocksky. They have done an amazing program in the past in the donor pool over there in front of the Windspear. And so waiting for Rhonda to confirm that. I have to send her a request form, but she was pretty sure that that would be possible. We will be giving Ann Williams the Jack Alder Award, and she and I had a lovely conversation yesterday, and she believes she will be able to be there. She's had her vaccination. She was really excited about the fact that we are going to have this event. So we are so pleased that we're going to have Ann there with us. We will also have the artist statement, Jonathan Norton, who is the playwright in residence for the Dallas Theater Center. He also has a play debuting in April, so this is very apropos. So we're excited he has accepted to give the artist statement. And then we'll have a panel discussion basically on the state of the arts, and we're still working on this part of it, and and how broad we want to be. So is that obviously the arts and the economy, obviously the arts and any legislative issues, state, local, and federal, the arts and the funders, the foundation, other funders, the artists themselves, and the challenges of just ramping back up again to have live performances, and then also looking at what are going to be the challenges in terms of the equity proposition for the arts groups and for artists as well. So we're still working on that. Hopefully we'll have that nailed down within a week or so and have more information. And then we'll have those tickets available through Tickets DFW, and we're hoping to have those on sale before the end of the month. So any questions on Dallas Arts Advocacy Day? I just hope to see you all there. It may be one of our first events that we can all see each other again. That in and of itself will be worth it. Erin, is your question about Arts Advocacy Day as to where you get tickets or how you sign up in other ways to participate? Tickets, okay. It'll be Tickets DFW, and those will be on sale hopefully within another 2 weeks or less, and we will be sending out information with a link as soon as we have those available. Any other questions on Arts Advocacy Day? Oh, and Loris is letting us know Dance Planet is April 10th in Strauss Square. So I guess that's a good segue into Dallas Arts Month. And you see a calendar. This is the most recent calendar of the events that will be happening in Dallas Arts Month. And so some of these obviously will be virtual, and some will be in person. So Jennifer, if you're still with us, do you want to say anything about Dallas Arts Month?
I think Jennifer had to step away, but we've got the normal roster of events, both and like Joanna said, both hybrid and in person. The creative conversation is going to deal with the intersection of arts and justice. So how arts is being used in social justice and other kinds of justice scenarios, and we have a great slate for the panel. We're bringing back Art 214, which is the citywide exhibit at the 4 cultural centers and the Moody, as well as our film festivals. Our community arts program will be doing a showcase at Fair Park and at Annette Strauss, and all of the other good stuff that always happens in April.
Thanks, David, for jumping in on that. And so as you can see, we have the Deep Ellum Arts Festival that first weekend. Titus has their salon series. Charles, you want to say anything about what you're planning for April 8th?
The salon on the 8th is a discussion with Jennifer Scripps and Lily Weiss about city funding of the arts district, a general restarting, just a general conversation. And the one after that is the only one that I haven't assigned yet. So I don't know who the artist will be for that 22nd yet, but I will probably by next week.
Okay, thanks, Charles. And then on the 16th, we have the Dallas Arts District Changing Perspective celebration. Lily, do you want to say anything about that?
Sure, it's still free. It is basically our block party reimagined. Obviously, we are not closing down the streets and inviting 20,000 people into the Arts District. We're going to do it at Annette Strauss Square. Really excited that we have a roster of, well, it's 2 programs, one at 7 and one at 8:45. We have 2 different programs, and we're featuring 10 Dallas arts companies. So it's going to be really wonderful to have an in-person event and seeing a range of artists from across Dallas.
Thank you, Lily. We also have 3 CAP artist showcases, one on the 16th, one on the 17th, one on the 18th. I believe those are in Strauss, Annette Strauss Artist Square. And so David, can you confirm that those are in Strauss?
The 16th, 17th, and 18th, those are the ones in Fair Park.
Oh, okay.
And I'm looking for the one that is in Strauss. I think that's the 25th.
Yeah. Okay, great. So those should be fun.
It looks
And
like
then-
Hector has a comment.
Hi. Yeah, seeing this reminded me that I would encourage everyone who has an event going on during Dallas Arts Month to enter that event into the KERA Art and Seek calendar. It is free and it's a great way to publicize your event, and it has wide viewership. But beyond that, if you are an organization or an artist that's funded by the Office of Arts and Culture, then you will also show up on the AT&T Performing Arts Center's culture calendar. There's an automatic feed for Dallas organizations and venues and artists. And then I take that information and send out an e-blast. Normally it's a bi-monthly e-blast, but in April we do it every week. So it's a great way to help publicize an event for yourself and your colleagues.
And I just want to add one point to that. By putting your event, especially in April, in, well, you should be anyway, in Art and Seek, it automatically syncs to the Dallas Arts Month calendar on the Dallas Arts Month website. So please do that. I know I haven't put my information in yet, but I'm encouraging everyone to put their April event in.
Thanks, Hector. Thanks, Lily. We have 2 film festivals, the EarthX Film Festival, the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And then apparently it continues on the 23rd. Obviously, Arts Advocacy Day on the 20th. And then the USA Film Festival is the 24th, 25th, and 26th, and 27th and 28th. So that's 5 days. And that one I know is in person. That's at the Angelica Angelica Theater. And let's see. And then the Dallas Arboretum Artscape is on the 24th, which is probably really beautiful. And hopefully the weather is going to be terrific then. And I think that's pretty much everything that's on the schedule right now. So as Hector said, please get anything you have going on in April, get that up on the Art and Seek calendar if you haven't already, so that it can be included as all of the marketing goes out for Dallas Arts Month. So any questions or comments on that? Okay, just a few more things to wrap up. I wanted to give a quick update from TCA, or in terms of the status of TCA with our current legislative process. Not a lot has changed. Obviously, everyone knows we're in the middle of a Texas legislative session. The public comment period has ended, I believe, as of today or as of this week. And now they're moving into where the House and the Senate work on their respective bills and the budget. And right now, the House is still planning, or still has the cultural district funding budgeted at 10 million. No changes to TCA's budget, and the Veterans Arts Program budget is still there. But the Senate has reduced the cultural district funding down to 6 million, and so that's up 1 million from what it had been. So there's still work to do there, and now the House will be having very public, hearings and debates and so on, but the Senate really doesn't. So we're really relying heavily on the TFA, on Texans for the Arts, and their lobbyist to keep us informed of any advocacy we may need to do on behalf of TCA. But we're trying really hard to get that full $10 million for the cultural districts. And that's important to Dallas because we now have two cultural districts. We have the Dallas Arts District and then the Deep Ellum Arts District is the newest one that just happened. Fair Park has put in a letter of intent to create another cultural district. And we're hoping that in the next, for 2022, that we will be able to create some sort of a Bishop Arts District, cultural district. Obviously, it would be larger than the Bishop Arts area, but to incorporate the groups over there in Oak Cliff. So it's very, very important that that cultural district funding be, be brought back up to the full 10 million, because that is distributed across the state, and that is 10 million over 2 years. So that's really 5 million a year. And it's, like Houston has 7 districts and Austin, I think, has 5. And so in terms of making sure there's enough money to support those districts, it's very, very important that we are able to maintain that funding level at 10 million. So, if there's advocacy needed, I will certainly let everybody know and keep you posted on that. And Tina wanted me to remind everybody that membership renewal invoices went out last month. He sent out to every organization or individual that needed to renew. So, as you know, DACAC operates completely as a volunteer organization, and the membership money is the only money that we have to use for things like Arts Advocacy Day, and for maintaining the website, and for things like Love Arts buttons and those things. So it's a tiny, tiny little shoestring budget that we have to work with, and we make it go as far as we possibly can, but we really do depend on those memberships. And so if anyone didn't get their invoice, let me know, and we'll make sure to get you a copy. And then the last thing, Nancy Israel has a little announcement she wanted to make, and we meant to get this into the last newsletter, but she's working with a Booker T. Washington student on a project, and so she wanted to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy.
Great, thank you, Joanna, and I'll be brief. There's a student who reached out to me. Her name is Isabella Vitale. She's doing a capstone project on why people go into the arts, why they don't go into the arts. And she sent out a little survey that I'm hoping maybe Joanna or Tino can send out to everybody about, why you're in the arts, what challenges you have in the arts. It does not take a long time to fill out, completely volunteer, but if any of you can take 5 or 10 minutes to do this and return it directly to her, I know she'd really appreciate it. So thank you in advance for helping out a future artist in our midst.
And we'll try to make sure we get that into the next newsletter. And I took that survey, and it didn't even take me 5 minutes. So, let's help this young aspiring artist out and get her some good information that she can use for her project. So, and with that, I think we've covered everything in the agenda. Reminding you, we will have the brown bag lunch on the 25th, and we will have the next DACAC meeting on the 31st. So, anyone else? Yes.
I just put the survey in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please, everybody, copy that into your browser so that you can take that survey. Really, it's very, very quick. So does anyone else have a comment, question, announcement before we end? Okay, well, good to see everybody. Thank you all for joining us. And we'll continue to be